Well, it looks like we are live. And another day and another podcast. Podcast number 14. I discovered something yesterday that came as a shock with regards to the duration thus far of the COVID-19 restrictions. For me, it feels as though it has been going on for 7 or 8 months. But in fact, it has been less than 5 months. Given that day one was March 13th, I calculate a total of 140 days. This bums me out. I wonder if anyone else out there shares my disappointment. That person must exist. Remember, misery loves company. This reminds me, when I was a child, time seemed to go by so slow. And sometimes the days passed at a crawl, especially when I became imprisoned in a car on a long journey. Are we there? Dad, are we there? I suppose a person of my vintage could see this in a positive light, considering that you get a bigger bang for your buck. Actually, you know what? I don't know if anyone could hear me because I got the microphone way over here. I was doing a lot of last minute stuff. So if you had problems to hear me, you shouldn't have those problems anymore. So where were we? Yeah, imprisoned in a car on a long journey. I suppose a person of my vintage could see this in a positive light, considering that you get a bigger bang for your buck because the clock has turned back. So you can experience 8 months of life in only 140 days. What do you think? It's like being a kid all over again. Now, today's sponsor is Depends. Ultra large, ultra strong, and ultra disposable. And as resident Donald Trump says, remember, my friend, remember. It totally depends on whether or not you forgot to actually get past the big yawn and put them on. Now, what was I thinking about? Today's Spinster's Day. Oh, yes, we must defend our country against the ravages of spills and different kinds of shit. Now, where was I? I would like to be open and frank, but I'm still Donald. Although I will share with you the following. I suffer from a rare form of rapid stupidity. Listen to me. COVID is safe when taken with liquid LSD. Hey, just look at me. I received injections twice a day. Just look at me. During the week and 4 times a day on the weekend. Remember, my friend. Remember. It depends on your votes. I depends on your votes, sorry. And you depends on wearing them. Hey, where did that doggy go? How much is that doggy in the window? Arr, arr. The one with the waggedy tail. Arr, arr, arr. How much is that doggy in the window? Arr, arr. I wonder if that doggy's for sale. So, how much, or sorry, I do hope that dog is for sale. That little bugger must have peed on my crotch, then ran away. Remember, my friend, remember, it depends on you to not forget to remind me to remember. Now, where was I? Okay. Take this out because I gotta perhaps sing here. Now, I'm sure a lot of you people know this lady, and she's a very good singer and songwriter. So let's see if we can do it kind of justice. It's the Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. Yesterday a child came out to wander, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the sky was full of thunder, and tearful at the falling of a star. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. Then the child moved 10 times round the seasons, skated over 10 clear frozen streams. Words like, when you're older, must appease him, and promises of Sunday make his dreams. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies, they go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. 16 springs and 16 summers gone now. Cartwheels turn to wheels, car wheels through the town. And they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet to slow the circles down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. So the years spun by, and now the boy is 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true, there'll be new dreams, maybe better dreams, and plenty before the last revolving year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle game. And go round and round and round in the circle game. Thank you for the song, Joni. It's a great song. I didn't do it justice, but that's the way it goes. Am I in the right place here? Am I in the right place? Just give me one sec. Oh, I guess I am. There we go. So, the Pacific spiny dogfish is what I'm going to start with here, and that's a Walker hook there, hanging out in the islands. The Pacific spiny dogfish, aka Squalus sucklei, or mud shark, or how I say it, left coast doggy, are among the most abundant species of sharks in the world. The maximum length of a Pacific dogfish can be 1.3 meters, which is 51 inches for the metrically challenged. These doggies and they can live up to 100 years, which is 100 years for the non-metrically challenged. These doggies prefer to languish in temperatures from 7 to 15 C, or for people like me, 45 to 59 degrees F. The Jaws mini-me dudettes and dudes hang out mostly in the North Pacific Ocean. These areas range from Korea to Japan, Russia, the Gulf of Alaska, all the way down to Baja, California. They are known as piscivores because they munch on other fish. Additionally, they snack on octopus, squid, and crustacean tapas. Squalus sucklei have a slow reproduction rate compared to other sharks and pump out the pups at a gestation period of around 2 years, allowing them to become more vulnerable to threats since they take longer to reproduce. The female dogfish reach a weight of 15 to 20 pounds by maturity, while the males tend to be much smaller in weight. Wimps. A shark will typically take up to around 25 years to become an adult. Hey, I too aspire to become an adult. Not. The sharks can even live to the age of 100 years old to make the North Pacific spiny dogfish the longest living of all dogfish. Its distinctive snout, large eyes, and flattened head give the Pacific spiny dogfish its unique look. Stop right there. A distinctive snout, large eyes, and flattened head. Lately I've seen someone with those features, but because of COVID, I haven't seen that many people. Come on, David, think. Think again. Was it yesterday? I think so. Let me see. I got out of bed, went to the bathroom, relieved myself, and looked in the mirror. You gotta be kidding. I guess ferociousness is one of my attributes after all. Okay, back to the features of the sharks. Cylindrical in shape, these mud sharks also contain a unique body coloring. The top half of the shark has a gray color with scattered white spots, while the bottom half has a white light gray color. The scales of the dogfish are composed of the same material as shark teeth, called dermal denticles, making the skin very hard and durable. Once dried and the denticles removed, the shark hide was used as sandpaper to do woodwork or even used as leather. Thank God our shop teacher didn't ask us to make sandpaper, especially different grits or coarsenesses. Report card. David attended class sporadically, but what torpedoed his chances for success was that he failed to make sandpaper for his woodworking project. The Pacific spiny dogfish has a set of teeth specialized for grinding instead of tearing. By the teeth being flat with sharp edges, the spiny dogfish has two spines that are in front of each dorsal fin. The use of two outer body spines has been proven for protection against enemies such as other sharks, humans, and even whales. The two fins are venomous due to the thorn-like spines that are in front of each dorsal fin. The dorsal fins also give the shark advantages. The Pacific dogfish habitat consists of consists of bays, including inshore and offshore waters. These animals are usually spotted at the bottom of the continental shelf at the bottom of the sea. Tagged dogfish released in California waters off British Columbia were most often recaptured in the same area as released. But 10 individuals were recaptured near Japan. The dogfish have been frequently captured over 1,000 k's from shore in salmon research gill nets in the North Pacific Ocean. The dogfish poses no immediate threat to humans. It is rare to hear about this type of shark attacking and injuring humans. The only significant way that the dogfish can cause harm to a human is if a person gets near the poisonous spikes that are located at the dorsal fin. Good thing we didn't try when we were kids to pet them while they swam by. The main species of animals that dine on the Pacific dogfish population are sharks, killer whales, seals, and large bony fish. The Pacific dogfish has relatively few predators, as it has poisonous spines. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get up here to see what's going on. Oh, yeah, Sam and Lynn. Hey, Dave. I keep wondering if this is our new norm, too. Says Lynn, good evening. I wonder if there's more here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. My daughter, Jacqueline. Hi, Dad. Hi, Jacqueline. Okay. Yeah, that thing on the dogfish, I didn't have a chance to, I was kind of pressed for time, and I didn't have a chance to really read it through. I would have abbreviated that quite a bit. I would have knocked it down, but thanks anyhow for you know, hanging in there. Okay, this is where it gets real. This is, I'll just adjust that camera. Walker's Hook, 1964 to 66. For me, Walker's Hook was a never-ending adventure. The Taylor family's house was situated on the High Bank waterfront, directly across from Walker's Hook. The hook, as we knew it, was indeed shaped like a hook, formed by a 250-foot wide spit that runs about 500 feet perpendicular from the main shoreline. At the end of the spit is an island that turns 90 degrees left from the spit and runs parallel to the coastline, forming a 500-foot wide inlet between the island and the shoreline. The island is about 3,000 feet long from the spit to the point. A tide flows out to expose a dark mud surface and broad band of eelgrass on the inside of the spit. And you can kind of see, that's not really low tide on that picture, but you can see, you know, pretty much what it is. Oh, why did I look over there now? I can't remember where it was. Okay, here we are. In the summertime, during the ebb of high tide, the water is coldest. Low tide exposes the butter clams and gooey ducks as they spray away. There are different kinds of crabs, hermits, rocks, and Dungeness, to name a few. Also, lots of little marine life and discarded clam shells, crab shells, seaweed, sticks, and the odd log. Now, I'm going into a bit of detail here because some people don't live here, but most people that live here know all that kind of stuff, so it's probably boring. After low tide comes the flood that not only swallows up the black mud of the inlet, but also floods us with excitement. The sun torments the mud for hours to the point of it being almost too hot to walk through. But now the mud is given a reprieve from the cold water. The water's nice to the mud. In turn, the water is affected by the heat from the mud and begins to warm up, as do our spirits, because soon the water will be lukewarm, and soon it will be about 3 feet deep so that we could easily swim in arguably the warmest water on Salt Spring Island. Just give me 1 sec here. Okay. There you go. See, they're after me. And I'm just a little thing in the corner there. One day, we were messing around in 3 feet of water when we were startled by the first fish that rubbed against us. But it was difficult to see because just the water wasn't clear and a bit muddy from us kind of stirring it up. We would spend hours in the warm, inviting water, swimming, diving under, and leisurely floating on our backs. Jim Taylor and I weren't the only ones that liked the tepid water. The first time it happened, we were swimming, and I felt something brush against me. And I looked to see where Jim was, and he was a good 10 feet away. What's going on? And then I felt something else rub against me. I asked Jim, "Did you feel something brush against you?" "No." Yes. They're probably mud sharks, and we should get out of here," said Jim. "Sharks? Can they bite us?" I asked. Jim replied, "They usually don't bite people, but I think this is a big run, so there will be easily hundreds of them." I thought to myself, usually don't bite. Hundreds. Sharks? What's wrong with this picture? We had a long way to go, which soon became shorter, and the fish began bumping into us. "Mommy! Daddy!" Finally, we reached the spit and slogged out of the water to gather our senses. Knowing that the mud sharks are carnivorous but rarely attack humans means nothing when you're standing in the water amongst hundreds of those devils churning around all over the place. The sandpaper hide rubs against us with the grain, and I wonder what would happen if they could swim backward and rub us against the grain enough to draw blood. And guess what what attracts sharks? We got out as quickly as we could, which was no easy task. And just a note, when we'd go fishing, if we caught doggies, they would get chucked back into the chuck or cut up and used for bait and crab traps. And apparently they're really good eating, but and there's a lot of Asians that like them. I know Dickie Ying's dad liked those, and he liked perch too. I can't remember his name, but I mostly knew him as Mr. Ing. That's the way it was. I asked Jim, does this always happen? No, not near as many as that, as in dogfish, and not very often. We were foiled by the dogs of the sea, the Pacific spiny dogfish, aka mud shark. Look in here, there we go. Safe and sound on the spit, we crossed it to the sandy beach on the other side and decided to go for a quick dip to clean the mud off and that kind of stuff. And compared to where we just came from, it was like instantly going from summer to in the tropics to winter in the Arctic. That was one quick dip. The beach on the spit is about 900 feet long and is hands down, at least in my estimation, the best saltwater beach on the island. Every once in a while, our families would come together for a full-on picnic. The hook is private property, so permission from Caldwell's was necessary to get the green light. Thankfully, we knew them. And as far as I know, we were never turned down. The usual suspects at the picnics were the Taylors, Hollemans, Starks, and Gerards, and probably some I can't remember. There was usually a handful of unusual suspects too. People having guests and that kind of thing. Then there is what I call the island part of the hook that extends from the spit to the point. It is exciting to explore, and even more so because we weren't allowed to go there. I think we would accidentally forget. The whole island was covered in trees except for a couple of grassy areas, small grassy areas. Deer trails ran throughout, and the odd time we would spot a deer. We discovered a couple of small caves, as usual it seems. And as Joni Mitchell said, "Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? Pave paradise, put up a parking lot, ooh, rock, 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 rock." Now, we're moving on to Edmonton. Now, I might have mixed up all my scenes here, so we'll just see how it goes. A couple of months after graduation, I arrived in Edmonton as a naive and gullible teenager, but fortunately, after 10 years had elapsed, I was just a little bit less naive and gullible. My brother-in-law Gary and I flew to Edmonton on one-way tickets because we didn't have enough money for a return ticket. That was one way to ensure you got a job because you had no choice and can't be picky about the work. We stayed at Gary's relatives for a few days, then moved to a motel at the south side of Edmonton next to the Big Derrick. And the problem there was that it was expensive. So yeah, we kept trying to get enough money to rent something. A few days later, I accepted my first job offer because I prefer to work and eat as opposed to not work and not eat. However, my first choice would be to eat and not work, but that just never seems to work. My new job was at RH Albert Nisku, which is between Edmonton and Leduc, if you know that area at all. And they made steel panels for prefab construction. The job was mostly grunt work and required little imagination, but it helped pay the bills. The biggest hassle was that I had to hitchhike to and from work every day until I saved enough money to buy a car. About a month later, we moved downtown to an apartment on Bellamy Hill, and a few months later to a house on the far side, north side of Edmonton, which made my commute almost impossible because I had to go all the way through the city, with no vehicle, that kind of stuff. One morning, I was walking from the highway to the Nisku Industrial Park, where I worked, when coming towards me was a familiar-looking Ford Bronco. A red one, in fact, red and white. And inside were two very familiar faces. They were friends from Pender Island, Ron Ames and Murray Vassov, who had recently graduated high school with me. So I waved and yelled like crazy, and they stopped. Great. They were looking for work, and it was very fortuitous that we crossed paths. We talked and agreed to meet after I finished work. They were staying at Murray's uncle's place in Duggan on the south side of Edmonton, and that's where we met. Murray's uncle said I was welcome to stay. And thanks to him, I had a place, so I did. Still hitchhiking to work, it continued to get colder, much more so than it gets on the left coast. Much more so. Murray got a job at Dresser Atlas and convinced me to apply. So I did and was hired immediately. I began work right away for a paltry $2.25 an hour. I earned more than 3 times as much per hour working for BC Hydro. But I made about the same money because I worked 3 times as many hours. Yeah, I got to start somewhere. My first job was to run a hot shot 560 miles to Weyburn, Saskatchewan. A hot shot is when additional replacement equipment must be quickly expedited to the job site. I was told to get there as soon as possible, which I did, like 90 to 100 miles an hour. Arriving there about 3 hours sooner than expected. When I got there, we had a bite to eat, and then I headed straight back to Checkertown. I just want to make another quick check here on who's here and who isn't, and I'm writing everyone's names down, so just kidding. Run, says Lynn. I tried one with Rosanos. I'm not. It's hard to look back on this and think about what the comment was for, but I'll look at it later. Lynn Cunningham, Henry in the 70s and early 80s would give us permission every now and then to have a small gathering. Yeah, back when we did it, there's so few people on the island, and we were such good people that they let us go. Oh, Jacqueline Liam says, "Hi, Grandpa." He's enjoying listening to you. Hey, Liam. How's it going? Okay. Now back to here. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So the company I worked for, I mentioned, was Dresser Atlas. Working for let's start again. Working for Dresser Atlas was all-consuming with a dash of wackadoodle mixed in. And the same, you guys are going to have to look that up later because I can't even remember what it means. And the same could be said of play. I could get a call in the middle of the night to go to the shop and load up for a job to Fort St. John after 12 plus hours of driving, then a job duration of 4 hours. Then we could be asked to go back to Edmonton and immediately on to Estevan, Saskatchewan, which was an additional 17-hour drive for an 8-hour job, and continue for as much as 2 weeks. We might sleep in a bed as few as 3 or 4 nights, but that's unusual, but it happened a couple of times. And this had become my new norm. Spring breakup made up for some of the hardships and gave us some reprieve from the usual grind. We would kind of go to work in the morning, then out for a liquid lunch and forget to return to work, and follow things up with a moist afternoon and evening. The next morning, we wake up hungover, go to work, and repeat. The first time we failed to return to work from lunch, I was more than a little concerned about my job. But I was told that the management expected it out of us because they did the same thing when they worked in the field. So that was good to know. So it was one of the perks of the job if you'd like to imbibe. The spring breakup could last for 2 to 6 weeks, depending on where you were working. It could be frozen and solid in the north and a mud hole down south. And just to explain, it's road bands that they have to worry about with breakup because you mess the roads up. Fortunately, I only worked through one spring where I was going up north and south and that sort of thing. Skiing. Now, where are we here? Oops. That was going to be the last one. Okay, that's all right. Water skiing. After spring comes summer. At least that's what I've been told. And that's when the fun would begin. For me, summer was mostly water sports in order of preference. Water skiing, windsurfing, and canoeing. Fast, not as fast, and slower. I was an adrenaline junkie, so water skiing fit the bill. Our venue of choice was Wizard Lake because it was long, narrow, and deep, and less susceptible to wind chop. The wake would quickly dissipate, and it was seldom busy, and was a really good part, not so busy. First time I tried to ski was on 2 skis, and I don't know what the hell happened, but I just popped right out of the water. But then I just, went for a long ride because the only thing I knew to do was to just hold on, just like this, that guy on the screen there. And I just skied until I couldn't hold on anymore, which was kind of stupid because I wasn't really going anywhere. Eventually, I got tired and let go. There you go. After about 2 years of skiing, I bought a competition slalom ski. We used Murray Vasev's boat, which was a little underpowered. Not a lot, but a little. but it could manage to pull a slalom skier out of the water just on the one ski after you do the bob up and down a few times. Slalom skiing was far more challenging than two skis. I just realized that you can't see me and you probably miss me. There we go. So you usually start on the two skis to do slalom skis, and when you're ready, you drop one. Sounds easy, but I must have wiped out 10 times before I managed to stay up, albeit only until I crossed the wake and then did an elegant face plant. When you finally get the hang of it, there's nothing quite like it. As you go out wide and cut hard towards the wake while leaning down towards the water to accelerate very quickly, hit and cross the wake and onto the glassy surface on the other side, and go out wide, cut hard, and repeat. The best way to start on slalom ski, though, was to stand at the end of the dock with the ski on the leading foot and pull about 20 foot of slack, and then you give the signal. Then they would just gun the boat, and once the line came taut, keeping balance, you step off the dock, land on the ski, and use your free foot for stability, and almost effortlessly you're catapulted onto and across the water. But like learning to slalom ski, I probably wiped out 10 times as well. We had a system when we arrived at the lake. This one's up. We had a system when arriving at the lake. We were like a well-oiled machine, and those of us who worked together certainly helped the cause. Typically, there were two vehicles, a truck pulling the boat and a car. The people in the car would park and head down to the dock and wait for the boat. When the truck pulling the trailer arrived, trailer guy, usually me, already wearing a life jacket, would hop onto the tongue of the trailer, undo the clevis holding the boat to the winch line while the boat is being backed down the ramp. When the clevis was disconnected, the person on the trailer, usually me, would give the thumbs up, and the driver would speed up and slam on the brakes when the trailer was far enough in the water. The boat would float off to the other guys on the dock, who would jump in the boat without tying it off, fire up the engine, put the ski on the dock, and toss the tow line to the trailer guy, who is now the skier guy, usually me. When he is ready to do a slalom dock start, then he is ready to do a slalom dock start. That entire description is very wordy and takes almost as much time as it does to do it, which is true. It's very, very quick. The problem with competition ski was that it would bite hard and dig in when you initiated the turn. So if you don't lean enough or too much at the beginning of the turn, it wasn't as forgiving as other skis. This one had a really hard edge on it, so that it would be faceplant time. And you may also get the wind knocked out of you, which has happened a few times. Thank God for life jackets. Thank God I remembered to put one on. A couple of times the ski bit me on the forehead, drawing blood. Perhaps it was me who hit the ski. Good old Glaswegian kiss. We also did some trick skiing and tandem skiing, but the one thing I always wanted to do was barefoot skiing. Every once in a while I would try it, but I could never quite accomplish it. We already knew the boat was probably too slow, but I had to prove that theory time and again. When we were ready to go, the trailer would be backed into the water to the right depth, and the boat was driven right onto the trailer, sorry, and someone standing on the tongue of the trailer, usually me, would reconnect the clevis and secure the craft with less than one crank of the winch. Years would pass by, and the winch and the line were just like new. I wonder why. So, let's see, what do we got here? I think it's this one here. Oh yeah, it's a poem, and it's getting close to that time too. Just another really quick check. Darren Berger, Mr. Science, are there road bans in Siberia and Kazakhstan? That's nice to see you're getting back to roots. Good stories. It's Darren. I used to work with him in mostly in Siberia and Kazakhstan. And that's a story for another time. Okay. Now I can figure out what I'm doing here. Okay, you guys have probably read it already. Second hand. Many times I've watched the frequent tick and sway of a clock's second hand. But the minute and hour hands frequently advance when you blink or look away. According to physics, time's relative, but I disagree. When I was a child, a day lasted an eternity. As a young adult, time was still on my side, although the pace of life steadily increased as the number of days grew. Eventually, my mind and body began to slow and show some signs of the ravages of time. Just reminding everyone that they're getting older, whether you like it or not. Now, on the long side of 50, I'm an absolute wreck. Gray hairs and wrinkles are no longer shy and have the last laugh as they multiply. The scale tips the wrong way to make me sigh. Half my teeth have been replaced by a full upper plate, and the ones on the bottom now know of their fate. Many are the injuries and surgeries my body sustained, but most of all is the haunting depression of my caved-in brain. To be held hostage by this illness for the rest of my life isn't fair. You have hope and aspirations of which I'm well aware. The sooner, I think I'm missing a little bit of it there. The guy chopped it off. Let's see. See if I can. Oh yeah. But I trust and hope to live in the house of the Lord. The sooner the better, as I can ill afford more of this torture in a coat made of hair. I aspire to expire, donate all my organs, recycle the titanium hip and gold teeth, too late for that, if they're still there, yeah. Then be one on pyre and get the hell out of here. Take a glorious ride beyond to the other side. With my luck, when I get there, the gatekeeper will say, "We've gone green now, and this is recycling day." Back you go. For how long I cannot say. You might be a woman, or maybe a man. LGBT could be part of the plan. Your shelf life has dwindled, so you won't start from scratch. You'll return as an adult in a cabbage patch. Now, just gotta see here. Oh yeah. So one last song. Just to quickly explain Jesse Winchester a little bit. He used to live down south and then came up north, and I think it was probably part of the when everyone was draft dodging and that, but I can't say for sure. We had lots of them on Salt Spring. And this song, it kind of, because I did that piece about Edmonton, you know, I liked Edmonton, but you're always thinking of back home where you came from. And he was in Montreal, and was kind of, you know, a part of his story. And there was this song called, I think it was Twigs and Seeds, about, what would that be about? I don't know. Branches and seeds that fall off them. But anyhow, it's a good, I remember it being a, you know, kind of a funny song. So just another sip here and see if I can keep my whistle wetted. Yeah. I think I see a wagon-rutted road with the weeds grown tall between the tracks. And along one side runs a rusty barbed wire fence, and beyond that sits an old tar paper shack. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Oh, Mississippi, you're on my mind. I think I hear a noisy old John Deere in a field specked with dirty cotton lint. And below the field runs a little shady creek, and there you'll find the cool green leaves of mint. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Oh, Mississippi, you're on my mind. I think I smell the honeysuckle vine, the heavy sweetness like to make me sick. And the dogs, my God, they're hungry all the time. And the snakes are sleeping where the weeds are thick. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Oh, Mississippi, you're on my mind. I think I feel an angry oven heat. The southern sun just blazes in the sky. In the dusty weeds, a fat grasshopper jumps. I want to make it to that creek before I fry. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Oh, Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Mississippi, you're on my mind. Oh, Mississippi, you're on my mind. I like that song, and I like a lot of his songs because they paint a picture. You can just close your eyes, listen to the song, and it's there. So that's what I think it's cool. Whoops. Oh, I did get the right one. So, anyhow, yes, it's that time. I'm almost overtime again. What happens? I don't know if you guys are having fun, but I guess I am, because it just flies. So, I hope to meet you guys in the next 2 weeks or whatever. But because the weather is nice and the COVID thing isn't quite as bad as it was before. Like I went and visited my youngest grandson for the first time, Bo, and he's like 2.5 months old. And I'm hoping to go and visit Jacqueline and Gabe and Liam. So what may happen is I may have to adjust the schedule. You guys, you guys, you just don't matter. You don't matter. I'm just worried about my family and myself. No. Okay, well, it's that time. Hey, there you are. Peace out. Take care. God bless and have a good night. Adios.